On this episode, we talk about what you should be looking for in a club, how many days a week your kid should be training, and high school boyfriends making signs for his girlfriend. What's up, everybody? My name is Ray Sanders, and this is episode number 2 of Coach Knows Best. So, the fact that we are even on episode number 2 is a little bit of a surprise to me. You might be wondering why I'm wearing this cheesy medal. One of the parents had made a comment about me wearing a medal in the next episode, and I'm super down. Any suggestions, anything that you guys think, any questions that you guys ever want to ask, I'm super down to do it as long as it's not too dumb. So anyway, so that's why I'm wearing the medal. This is from our Coast League season this past year. We just finished. Caesar and I had a long season of Coast Premier League games, driving down there every weekend with a couple of teams. And so we just finished that this past weekend. Coast League season's winding down for most of the teams. What else is going on? We're looking forward to the Thanksgiving weekends of tournaments and all the stuff that we have going on there. The older teams are about to break up for high school season, so we just got a lot of stuff that's going on. Tryouts in December, a lot of fun things that are going on. But this show is about you guys. This show is about being able to bring value to you, answering questions that you guys have, some of the most common questions that we get week in, week out, year in, year out. So at the end, like I've said before, you guys are welcome to submit any questions that you want, anything. Obviously, if it's an actual question, we'll try to answer it. Whereas if it's a goofy question like some of you guys submitted, that one probably won't make the show. But that being said, let's rock and roll.
How many days a week should my kid train?
So this is a question that we got earlier in the week. It was a question that I really liked. One of the things within this question, though, that you have to also analyze is the word should, right? So should is kind of relative to their age, to what it is that their hopes and goals are, and on, right? So the average player in America trains an hour and a half, hour and 45, maybe 2 hours a night, twice a week, plus their games on the weekend. So the average American player is probably practicing 4 to 6 hours a week. So maybe about 10 years ago, I read an article about a study that was done in England where they analyzed how many hours the average English youth player was training compared to the rest of the world. So their conclusion was that the average English player was training 4 days a week at 2 hours a day. So they're training anywhere from about 8 hours. They said within the article anywhere from 6 to 10 hours a week. The average Brazilian player was training 16 to 24 hours a week. So when you have kids that have these dreams and hopes of playing professionally, you have to kind of analyze some of those types of things. If a 12-year-old kid is training 3 or 4 hours a week, and the average English kid is training 6 to 10 hours a week, if the average Brazilian kid is training 16 to 20 hours a week, obviously you kind of look over the course of 6 to 10 years, where those kids end up is probably a reflection of how much it is that they trained. Now, that being said, I think that America has done much better, right? So now you have these academies that are training 4, even 5 days a week. I think that a kid who goes to their normal, your average 12, 13, 14-year-old kid, that goes to their normal 2-day-a-week practice and is putting in an additional day on their own, training in their backyard, training at the local park, maybe an additional day doing some type of physical fitness training or something like that. I think that that's good, and that would have decent trajectory in order to be able to go play at a college level. I think that sometimes kids actually need to train less. And what I believe that kids need to do is they need to have these time frames during the year where they're actually training 3, 4, even 5 days a week, and then these other time frames where they don't do anything at all. So as an example, I went to a coaching course in Holland, and they actually made their kids sign a contract, which is whatever type of a contract, but they signed a contract saying that during the summer for 4 to 6 weeks, they would not even touch a soccer ball, they'd play video games, they'd go swimming. So the quantity of training certainly matters, but actually going out and having high levels of training is really important as well. So if in general you have a desire to be able to play in college, you should be training anywhere from 3 to 4 days a week though, and then at different times of the year taking decent breaks.
What should I look for when I'm looking for a soccer club?
So this is an interesting question. This is an interesting question because I'm a director of a club. I ultimately started my own club with another guy. And so every year we're having to analyze these types of things amongst our board, or even for myself, just searching internally about what it is that our identity is as a club and what service are we actually providing the community. So, within analyzing a lot of the clubs in Southern California, in our own community, some of the most successful clubs across the country, and really trying to look at it through the eyes of a parent, when I ask myself, what is it that they should really look for, or what makes the entire soccer experience good and worth the value of the money that people are paying, I've kind of summarized it into 3 different categories. And so one would be the administration / management of the club. The second would be the coaching that the kid is receiving or that your child is getting within the club. And then the third would be the opportunities that the club is providing. So within those 3 particular things, I'll give a brief summary of what it is that I mean within that. So in terms of the administration within it, or how well the club is ran, are things clearly communicated to you? Is there a clear plan of action of what it is that's going on? Are things planned well? Versus are things disorganized all the time? Do you not know what it is that's going on? Are you getting things late? So on and so forth. And so we certainly have some of our downfalls within that, but I think that in some other areas within that we're personally thriving. Second, I think, is probably, if I only picked one of the 3, I'd probably say that the second is probably the most important, which would be the quality of coaching that you're getting. I think that you can take a bunch of talented kids, put anybody, some baseball coach on that team, throw them out there, and they're going to win games. Because talent at the end of the day is going to help you win a lot of games. But when you want to go and play at the higher levels, potentially play in college, are you having a coach that is having a good focus on what it is that's important, a plan of action when they come to practice, a direction when they come to practice? Is the coach dedicated to coaching education, trying to be the best version of him or herself that they could possibly be? These are the types of things that I think are really important. I think that there's a lot of coaches that are out there that are very competitive, that scream a lot, that have high levels of intensity. I think that there's a lot of coaches out there that are very nice, that say a lot of nice words, and so on and so on. But I think that what you should really be looking for is a coach that is dedicated to his craft or her craft, that is teaching your kid, and that is able to diagnose problems when it's breaking down and it's not working. So you're paying for the service, in other words, for your kid to become a better soccer player, and your kid is going to become a better soccer player through better coaching. So that's where I would put most of my value. For our club, as an example, we're trying each year to dedicate more and more resources towards coaching education and really analyzing ourselves as coaches and having some type of self-awareness of where we are as a coach. The third thing that I think that you should look for in a club is opportunity, right? So when I grew up, it was really just about one individual team going out, doing the best that they can, and getting some type of recognition. In today's day and age, now, because of the Academy, ECNLs, WCDAs, SCDSLs, these are all a bunch of acronyms for a bunch of different things. Those programs are usually programs that adopt clubs and don't adopt individual teams. Certainly, it's not to neglect the individual opportunity, but what opportunities are the club actually providing for your child that maybe you can't get at another club, or even if you could get at another club, they are not as successful within doing that. And so, again, is the process within it smooth? Are you getting good coaching? And then is that club providing good opportunities? Those are the 3 things that I would ask myself. Having fun at a weekend barbecue, making sure that they go to tournaments in Vegas so the parents could have fun. These are all things that are fine, but those are the things that you should place value in.
What is better, club or high school?
So this is definitely going to be a controversial one, probably because of my perspective on this, and because there's so much emotion that's tied within this. The first thing that I'll say is this, is that I definitely believe, I'm gonna take this off. I definitely believe that the opportunities that a kid is gonna get are primarily going to be within the club soccer world. So when we say what is better, club or high school, I would say from an opportunity standpoint, it's going to be better in club. I think that overall, I don't have a lot of love towards high school soccer, and it's just through the circumstances, to be perfectly honest with you. I think that because there's so many schools, the talent is ultimately diluted. I think that you have coaches that are not always capable. Now, I know a lot of coaches that are probably better coaches than I am that are coaching high school. So it's not to say that there's no good coaching in high school soccer. There's a lot of really good high school soccer coaches, but sometimes there's not, and that's really kind of based upon luck and what school you go to. I know JV coaches in town that are better than a lot of varsity coaches in this community. So I think that also additionally, the fields are usually kind of poor. It's during the winter, there's a lot of mud, the refereeing is usually pretty poor, and there's just so many games that are played in a small time frame. So I don't really care for soccer, high school soccer, because usually it's just not an overall good experience, and kids come back to their club teams hurt and injured, and there's not a lot of opportunity for it. Now, there's nothing like playing for your school. It's fun. All of the boys or the girls that play club together, they get to play against each other during the high school year season, and so that's always fun. You have your boyfriend or your girlfriend that comes to your game and they're putting pictures up and I love number 3, he's for me, and all these other types of pictures. Like, that stuff's cool, I guess, if they like that. And so there are fun things about it. I think that it obviously serves a purpose. For some people, that's the only competitive soccer that they play throughout the year, but I think that if I look at my personal career, freshman, sophomore year is a lot more enjoyable because you're playing with juniors and seniors. By the time that you're a senior, if you have a bad coach, bad circumstances, and you're playing with the freshmen that's super athletic that ended up making the team, it's not as good of experience. In our community, we had South High School. They ended up winning a state championship. That's phenomenal. These things are great. They're great experiences, and they're some of the greatest memories. So in terms of what's better, club or high school, I think that they can coexist. However, I do believe that from a quality standpoint, both in opportunity and overall coaching, I think that you end up finding a little bit better in club. The last thing I'll say is, like, you have to keep in mind, if I personally coached high school, I would coach high school completely different than I coach club. Coaching club has an end in mind of what's next and what's next and what's next, whereas in high school is just about trying to win that game that day. And the end is just a conclusion at the end of the season, whether or not you're the champion. So again, it's a perpetual thing as far as club and development, whereas in high school, it's really about how can we ultimately structure this team just to win this game today. So you can make your own judgment from there. All right, guys, so that's it. So we are obviously amateurs at this because we didn't do this earlier when we recorded, and we forgot that we didn't do any type of a conclusion. So that being said, that's the show for today. Caesar's upset because I called him a bad producer, and we had to redo this like 6 times now.
7.
But it's still good. If you guys have any questions, leave your questions below in the comments, or you can email me at ray7sanders@gmail.com. Again, that's ray7sanders, like the colonel, @amag.com. So other than that, we will see you later.